Trying to get back into the military, I went for my physical and I failed MEPS. And if you're trying to get into the military and you're gearing up for your physical, you need to watch this video because I'm gonna put you onto some things that you need to know about that no one else has talked about. And if you have weight loss surgery and you're trying to do this process, then you definitely need to tune in. Weight loss surgery, the gastric sleeve, and I'm trying to go back into the military. So I knew going for my physical at MEPS, this was already going to be a strike that was against me. This is my second time doing MEPS as I am prior service military and I got chaptered out of the Army for a weight chapter. So the odds was already against me. I'm gonna let you know all of the information about me gearing up for MEPS, my MEPS day process, and the results of my MEPS. But before we get into the details, if you've never seen my face before, hi, my name is Janae. I make a lot of content focused on wellness, fitness, and self-development and helping you live your best healthy and active life. So if that sounds like something you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, it lets the algorithm know that this is a good and helpful video. And let me know in the comments below, where are you in your process if you're trying to join the military? What is it looking like for you? And if you had weight loss surgery and you're trying to do this process, let me know in the comments below. So I've already done a few videos talking about my military process so far. So if you haven't watched my military after weight loss surgery video, my ASVAB video, or my TAPAS personality test video, I'm gonna link it in the cards above. Make sure you go ahead and watch that. Now let's talk about the process of me getting ready for MEPS, especially after having weight loss surgery. So if you have weight loss surgery and you're trying to figure out this process, this is important for you to know. So first, if you're trying to get into the military, then you need to meet weight and physical standards. So that is something that you need to have already been working on, which I have. So knowing that this is a process that I wanted to do, I went and got a letter from my surgeon clear me fit for duty. I haven't had any issues after weight loss surgery, no complications, no side effects, no malabsorption, nothing, absolutely nothing after my gastric sleeve. So I was comfortable enough to go to my surgeon and ask him for a fit for duty letter, pretty much saying that he had no worries, I'm good to go. He recommends that I am good to serve in the active duty military. So get a letter from your surgeon if you haven't already. Another thing I did to gear up for MEPS was go get a regular physical from my regular doctor. So I had her just check over my body, just a regular annual physical. I had her draw my labs just to make sure everything was still looking good because it's been a few months since I had lab work done. And then I also asked her for a letter from a physician, regular doctor standpoint, looking at my labs. Did she recommend me to go into military active duty? And of course, she also agreed with my surgeon, wrote me a letter. So I had that in my medical files already. MEPS is going to do a pre-screen medical workup on you. They're going to be requesting your documents. And since I am a military spouse, it's easy for them to pull my stuff because it's the same thing that they're already using for active duty soldiers. It's called Genesis. And so they were able to pull my prescription records and my medical records from my doctors for pretty much everything that was in the system. And so it was good that I went and saw my surgeon and saw my regular doctor and had that stuff in the system. That way that they can pull it when they're doing their pre-screening stuff. Now let's talk about the actual MEPS day. And I'm gonna insert some clips of the day because I did record that day and then I had to run inside. So after those clips, I'm going to do a recap of the actual day. Good morning and hello everyone. It is 4:40 in the morning. I've been on the road since 4:30 and it is Monday, September 16th, and I am on my way to MEPS. Now, normally for MEPS, you have to stay in the hotel the night before because it's an early morning. But and my recruiter gave me that option, but I told him no, I just would have rather driven myself just because I have kids and I live an hour away from MEPS. So I am located in Washington State. MEPS is in Seattle and I'm an hour and 4 minutes away. And so I just opted to drive beforehand, and what she said was fine. I just needed to make sure I was there on time. MEPS opened at 6 in the morning. I told him I would be there at 5:30, which it's clocking me at 5:31, that I would be there just to make sure like there's no traffic, because there's always traffic heading to Seattle, or just no hiccups in general. And so I am going to talk to y'all more once I get there. So I made it, and now let's get into the things I had to do to prepare for MEPS today. So as y'all may know, or if you haven't, go ahead and watch the video. I'll link it in the cards above. But I had weight loss surgery, and so I did a video talking about me preparing and doing this process after weight loss surgery and the things that I'm gonna have to go through to even get back into the military. And so this is part of it. I just was about to start talking to y'all, but then I saw a crap ton of people walking towards the front entrance. I don't know if you can see them. And it's about 15 minutes before they open, so I'm just gonna head over there and I will chat with y'all later. So I was fortunate enough to be able to drive myself to MEPS, especially because I live an hour away, so I did not have to stay in the hotel beforehand. That's normally the process for people, so I did not have to do that. And it worked out in my favor that I also did my ASVAB on a different day. I did my PICAT, and then I did my ASVAB verification, or my PICAT verification, on 2 separate days before I even went for my physical. So it ended up not being a long day for me, which I did not know that information going into this. So something to take into consideration: if you don't want your day to be long at MEPS, if you can do your ASVAB or your PICAT and your verification before your physical, it's just one thing that you don't have to do that day. I pretty much arrived there at 5:40 and was parked. The building opened at 6. I saw that all of the soldiers were already getting there, so I got out there too. We all walked into the building. They lined us up down the halls, and then we had a mini briefing where they said, you know, have your social and your ID out. Make sure you're not wearing any earrings, and you don't need any paperwork. Turn off your phone, turn off your alarms. Like, pretty much just getting us ready so that the day and the check-in can be effortless. So once we actually got into MEPS, we all put our bags into the baggage area, and then we had to sit down to get a briefing from the lieutenant colonel, the commander, just going over. It was a very generic briefing of, it was a lot of just generic stuff. It really wasn't like important stuff. We sat there for like maybe 20-30 minutes, listened to him talk. Maybe it was generic to me because I've already done this before, but yeah. After we done that briefing, we were released to our respective liaison. So whatever branch that you were trying to join into, you had to go to that office, and majority of the people were there for Army, and so that's where I went. So when I got there, they already had our stickers printed off, but my sticker for some reason was not printed off, so he had me and another girl step off to the side, and so, but it was printed off, but it was in a different pile, so he had to, I guess, verify something. I don't know what that was about, but yeah. Once that was done, I had to go to the front desk line to get checked in with the front desk. And when I got to the front desk, I was wearing a white shirt. If you saw that clip, I was wearing a white shirt. And apparently I wasn't supposed to be wearing a white shirt. So I had to go back to my liaison, and they actually gave me this Army shirt to change into. So that's what I did. The group was mixed up with a bunch of different people. People who were there for physicals, people who were there for like just a quick check, and then they were getting shipped off. There was a bunch of different groups. So they split us up, and the people who were there for physical had to go back to the medical area. So from the medical area, this was what the breakdown was. We had to do all of the pre-stuff first before we even got to the physical part. So the order for me, because it's gonna be random just so that the day can be flowing, but you're gonna do all of it. The day for me, I went and got my vitals done. After I got my vitals done, I went over to hearing, where they checked my ears real quick. And then I actually did the hearing test. Now, when he checked my ears, I cleaned out my ears the night before and the day of, but there was still some wax buildup. So after I did the hearing test, they put some drops in my ears and then a cotton ball and let that marinate for some. And then they were going to rinse out my ear and try to pluck it out. But before they actually did that, I had to sit with the person who ended up being the person for my physical, and I had to like sign a document saying that I was going to allow them to do that. And she also checked my ears, and then boom, I went back and did all of that cleaning process. So after that, we had a medical briefing where they pulled everyone to the room and pretty much told us how the day was gonna go and why. So after the medical briefing, we immediately had to do a breathalyzer. So make sure you're not drinking any alcohol or anything like that beforehand, because they will breathalyze you. So we did a breathalyzer. Mine, of course, came back 000. Immediately after that, we did the piss test. You have to be able to go up to the number 2 line on the cup, and you do have to pee in front of the personnel. They want to make sure that they're seeing where the pee is coming from. And if you can't pee, for that clinic, you had up until 10:30 because that's when the clinic was going to close. And again, we started this process at about 6:37 at this point. So they had water back there. If you couldn't pee, I can pee anytime. So that was it for me. They did, for me, the women, they did the pregnancy test right in front of me, and then the rest of the urine was going to be used for a drug test. So after that, I moved on to vision. Now I do wear glasses. That's something different from the first time I went into MEPS, because I've only been wearing glasses since 2015. I did the vision test, and oh my God, I thought I was going to completely fail it because I'm looking at it. Everything was just so blurry, especially in my left eye, but I passed enough to where it was good for the military. So that's a good thing. Same thing with my hearing. When I looked at the results, my hearing was a bit off. Like the numbers were a bit off for the different sounds and the different tones, but it was good enough for me to make it into the military. And they also test your eyes for color blindness. I was good. I'm not colorblind at all. Now for the hearing test, it's just a bunch of beeps, but the room is like a soundproof room. You're gonna be in there with other people. They want you to be quiet because you can disturb the person that's next to you. You'll put the earphones on, and you wanna make sure that you're not chewing any gum or candy. They're gonna ask you this. Take off your glasses if you are a glasses wearer, because like anything can like mess up the sound of it. And so you really want to focus on it, but they'll give you instructions when you're doing the test. After I did my vision, I did my blood work. Now at this point, this is when I discovered that my day was going to be short. All of the other applicants that were there had to do either their full ASVAB or their verification. I didn't have to do anything. And so the Sergeant First Class that was leading this, she was like, hey, I'm gonna have to bump you to the back so that they can hurry up, do their stuff since the lab clinic was gonna be closing, and that they can go on to testing. And so I'm like, you know, whatever. I still had to get my ears cleared out at this point. So they all went, and then I did my blood work. After that, I was the only one left in the area. And so the Sergeant First Class actually discovered that and went and told the doctor like, hey, there's actually somebody that you can see right now. She doesn't have to do her testing. And so the doctor was like, cool, I'll start reviewing her records. At that point, I overheard them talking, and I heard her tell the sergeant like, this is a difficult case. I'm looking at her files. This is a difficult case, so I'm gonna need a second. And my eyes like popped open. And so they brought me back to the medical briefing room where there was a TV and a bunch of like old school DVDs, and I picked The Sandlot and watched that for some time. And then the doctor came and grabbed me. And so when we went in there, the first thing that we did was talk about my medical record. And so this is a part that everybody needs to pay attention to, but especially if you had weight loss surgery. So she's looking at my medical record, and I don't care to disclose any of this information. It is what it is. It's nothing like terrible or whatever. So this is for educational purposes for you guys. So the first thing that came up, of course, was my bariatric surgery, but next to it, it said complications of malabsorption. And so we're talking about that, and I'm like, she's like, did your surgeon tell you about this? And I'm like, yeah, but that's normally with bypass patients that isn't really common for people who have sleeve. And so I think that's just a generic note. Is, do I have to get in contact with my surgeon and ask him to remove it? And she's like, no, it's not that he has to remove it. It's that he has to update the note on it. So boom, already had that in the back of my mind. Then we started talking about anemia. She kept bringing up anemia and I'm like, I've never been anemic before. What are you talking about? And she's like, it's related to my sickle cell trait. And I'm like, well, I came into the military with sickle cell trait. I've had it since birth. And she's like, well, did you disclose of this the first time? And I'm like, yeah, it's the only thing that was on my medical record at the time. Like, and they didn't make a big fuss about it. They didn't care. So I don't know what to tell you. And I know for a fact that I disclosed of it because when I went to Korea, we had to do some shot. I cannot remember the shot, but I know that I was excluded from the shot because it was like a shot from malaria, I think. Something about the mosquitoes biting you in a high risk for malaria, I think it was. Don't quote me on this, but it was something like that. But I didn't have to get it because I had sickle cell trait, and the way that the blood cells work is that it's like a sickle. It's like a icicle. And so it wasn't common that I would get it. Something like that. I'm not making this up. So that's how I know for a fact that this was in my records, but whatever, I digress. So she was pretty much saying that I may have to do some blood work to get my anemia some levels or something like that. It's not something that she has to ask me to do. Like, she can't ask me to do it, but there was things at her level basically that she can pretty much look at my medical record and be like, okay, whatever, I'll update your chart, I can clear this. But then there were other things that based off of the policy, she could not clear. And pretty much my recruiter said that nobody wants to take the hit for this if God forbid something happens to me later on in service. No one wants to be that one that cleared it and now something happened. And so she's going based off the policy, and it's probably going to need to be something that's waiverable, someone else's problem pretty much. And so I'm like, okay, malabsorption, sickle cell, that's two things that I'm thinking of. And then we talk about hypertension. I had high blood pressure. I was 287 pounds previously. And so I only had high blood pressure due to my obesity. As soon as I lost weight, my blood pressure was normal. But I was on losartan, I think is the high blood pressure medication. And because of that, she just was talking to me about that. And she's like, well, when did you get off of the medication? And I'm like, honestly, before my surgery, because you have to get off all medications before a major surgery. And I personally never got back on it. And ever since my surgery, I have been, you know, without any hypertension. And she's like, okay, like I can pretty much chart that, and I can see here that you have a year's worth of vitals that are all normal. Okay, boom. Then I have a history of knee pain. I have chronic knee pain, again, due to my obesity. That has been cleared. She asked me about that, and I told her, like, I've only had x-rays on it. It always came back clear. Nothing is torn, nothing. And so as we're talking, I'm like, yeah, it was only due to like when I worked out, and actually I'm fine now. And she asked me about my workout routine. I told her I run, I weight train, all of that stuff. And I'm like, actually, I just ran 10 miles on my knee, like not even that long ago. She's like, when was that? And so I'm like 2-3 Saturdays ago, and she documented that in the chart. And so I know there's a fear of talking too much during the physical and not disclosing enough, but sometimes in your favor, it can help. And so she documented that. And another thing that came up was tuberculosis, TB. Now, when I was a kid, I had an exposure to TB apparently. And so that came up a few years ago because I work in the healthcare field, and I did, you know, the TB test where they insert your skin or whatever. Mine's always comes back positive. Like, it always comes back positive. And my doctor said that I'm just sensitive to the test. And so in 2018, I actually went to a clinic about that, and I was supposed to take some type of 9-month-long treatment, but I only took a month of it, and I never went back. I never followed up because at that time, my husband and I were talking about having another child. You cannot be on that medication trying to plan for a child pregnancy or breastfeeding. And so I never followed up from it because a year later, when I was getting a job in healthcare for TB or positive TB test, they did a blood test, or they still do a blood test called quantiferum, something like that, and they do a chest x-ray. If those come back clear, then that's it. And so that's what we talked about. And she told me that the military does not take the blood work. And so I'm most likely going to have to take the treatment for 9 months long. And so this could temporarily disqualify me, and I would have to wait until the treatment is over. And I sat in that chair and I sunk back in that chair and I was like, damn, that sucks. So there's that. My cholesterol came up. She's like, my levels are good enough. I don't have to worry about that. We talked about a weight loss medication that I was on called Contrave that my bariatric clinic prescribed to me at the end of last year. And so that drug is actually a psychotropic drug, which I was not aware of. I just thought it was a weight loss drug. And because of that, you're not supposed to be on any type of psychotropic drugs for 36 months. And so that was another thing that I was like, oh shit. Whatever. But I told her it wasn't for mental health reasons. It was for weight loss. And it made me extremely nauseous. So I only took a month of it. And that was back in January when I stopped it. And so she's like, okay, like I can see here how you didn't, get any refills, and that it was for weight loss, and you don't have a history of behavioral health or mental health. So they should be able to clear that, but just something for you to be aware of. So there's that. Last thing we discussed was my sleep apnea, again, due to my obesity. I had to get tested for sleep apnea to get approved for weight loss surgery. And so that was in my medical file. And she told me that that's something that is normally have to be cleared some type of way by surgery. And so that was something that, again, is above her level, something that I'm gonna have to think about later. And so at this point, I was feeling very defeated, and yeah, very defeated. So now is where we jumped into the actual physical. I had to strip down to my bra and panty. Make sure you're wearing a full coverage panty, no thongs, no cheekies, and make sure you're wearing a bra, a regular bra, not a sports bra. That way they'll be able to pretty much see as much skin as possible. And so she looked over me. She had me bend down, to check my spine. She looked at my skin, had me do all of this and this and that, whatever. Had me jump on one foot on each side, had me squat down. Then came the duck walk. And you guys, I do have weak knees. My knees are not in pain anymore, but I do have weak knees. And I should have practiced the duck walk because I struggled a bit and I thought this was going to fail me because it's not a strength thing. It's a shifting of the weight thing. You shift and then heel toe. You shift and then heel toe. And my left knee is really weak. And so I made it through though. I made it through, but it was very questionable. And my knees crack. Like, I wonder if y'all can hear that. My knees crack, and so I was worried about that. And she heard it. She was like, yeah, you have the cracklies in your knees. Does it hurt? And I'm like, no, it just cracks. That's it. So just something to be mindful of. Now at this point, this is where she had me go all the way undressed. She gave me some type of little cloth thing to cover myself and a little blanket or whatever. It's all made out of paper, but I had to come out my underwear and panties. And once I was on the table, she pressed down on my stomach, made sure that there wasn't any pain. We did a breast exam. She lifted me up or whatever. Then she had me bend over, not stand up, but bend over on the table so that my cheeks can spread, make sure that there was no abscess or anything like that. And then I had to lay back on the table, be like in a frog position so that she could just look. And that was it. And I got all the way dressed again. And so at this point, she just reminded me of the things to be mindful of. She's like, there's no guarantee that they will approve it or won't approve it. I just want you to be mindful of these things. I'll document your chart, but that was it for her. And so once I was done with the physical, the Sergeant First Class actually forgot to weigh and tape us. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, I didn't do any weigh and tape. And so we went back to a room where we did height, weight, and if you don't meet the weight standards, then you need to be taped. And so I'm 65 inches. When I got on the scale, I was 167.2. My max weight is 158 because I am 35. And so she had to tape me. And I believe there is a new way that they tape now. It's just the abdomen, but she did tape me the old way, which is the 3 ways, the neck, waist, and hips. Either way, I passed the body fat percentage. I have up until 34% body fat. I think I came in at about 31. And so all good there. So after that, I went back to my liaison, let them know that I was done. From there, he sent me to get fingerprinted. So I went to that office to get fingerprinted. Once I was done with that, I went back to the liaison office, and they already have the results of your physical. You already have your 5-line score, which mine was a 31113, something like that. Or maybe the last 3 is reversed with the last one, something like that. And so the sergeant that's there, he's looking and he's like, you know, hey, did you tell your recruiter about this, about this, about this, the things that came up with the doctor? And I'm like, there's some things I told him, but there's some things I didn't because I didn't even think of it. Like my sickle cell trait, I told them that, but they keep labeling it as anemia. So I'm like, no, I didn't even know that was a thing. So, my sleep apnea, I'm like, yeah, I told him about it, but that was like, you know, I didn't know that these were things that were issues for y'all. And so there were things I told him about, but I didn't like go into detail because I didn't know that it was going to be that serious. And so he told me that my waivers were already in, and I pretty much, no matter how long this process takes, I won't have to do this process over. And pretty much wished me good luck. And my recruiter asked me to call him before I left the building. That way, if there was anything that he could submit right then and there, that he can do. But there was nothing, so I came on back home. At that point, I felt super, super defeated. And like, I failed MEPS. I failed my physical. So I'm done with MEPS now. And I don't know, it's not looking too good. Like I'm trying to like, you know, if this is meant for me, it's gonna be for me. It's in God's hands. But like, I don't know. I hate to have negative thoughts surrounding it, because if that's what you adapt, then that's what it's gonna be. But I just got a lot of stuff that's it's not even about the weight loss surgery. That's the crazy thing about it. That's what's like, got me that gut-wrenching feeling. Like, it's not even about the weight loss surgery. It's just random stuff that's like conditionally disqualified. My spirits are definitely low, if you can tell. Later today, I do have to stop by my recruiter's office, and he already has like the results of my physical. He was talking to me about it, but I'm gonna talk to him in greater detail about it when I go in office, because I really wasn't listening. Like, whatever he was saying, I really wasn't listening. I kind of had checked out of the conversation. So the lessons that you can learn, which is why I told you to pay attention to my story, if you are gearing up for MEPS, here are the lessons that you need to know and learn, especially if you have weight loss surgery. Look at your medical records before you even start the pre-screening process. Not only did I tell you to do your workup, get your surgeon and your regular physical with your doctor, but look over your medical records. See if there is anything listed in your problem areas that is no longer an issue. They need to clear that shit. They need to clear it. If there's any prescriptions that you stopped, they need to clear that and put it as inactive. If there's anything in your medical history that you are not aware of, or something is standing out to you, you need to ask them about that if you're about to do this process, especially if you're a military spouse, because they have access to all of your stuff if it's done through the military. And so make sure you're staying on top of your medical records, your prescription records. Make sure you have proof for everything, that you remember what everything is. Like, make sure you're staying on top of this stuff, because I wish I would have done that. I could have had a lot of this stuff cleared out already, but I didn't. I didn't know what I don't know. And so now you know, So be prepared. It has now been 2 days from my physical and I already have an update. So in the moment of me going through that experience, I wanted to get this video recorded like pretty much immediately after so I didn't forget anything. And I'm pretty sure I did not forget anything. But once I went through it all, like I was so crushed. I was not in the mood to even record this, but I'm glad I did wait because I do have some updates. I do future soldier training with my recruiting station. And so I saw my recruiter this morning and he's like, hey, we got some things to talk about because I already heard back from your waiver. And his voice did not sound reassuring at all. And so I'm like, if it's bad, I will leave right now. So like, what is it? And he's like, it's not bad. It's just, you know, there's just things to work through. And I'm like, is it a PDQ? A PDQ is a permanent disqualify. Yeah. And so he's like, it's not a PDQ, it's all workable. So I'm like, that's all I need to know. And so at this point in the journey, I am going through and working through my waiver process. I have 5 things that I need to get done and we will see if they approve everything and let me in. So did I fail MEPS? Yes, but failed is not a deny and a delayment is also not a deny. So don't let my scenario discourage you with MEPS or be fearful of MEPS. Use these tips and use the lessons that I learned during this experience, especially if you are a bit further out in your journey and you know that you want to do this and you have some time. Like, book the appointment, sit with your doctor, look at your medical records, make sure everything is clear, anything that's questionable is taken care of, anything that has stopped or no longer is a problem says that in the charts, and I think you'll be good. I think you'll be fine. And this is going to take me to my next video, which is going to be me talking about my waiver process and working through the waivers and seeing what that looks like. I don't see a lot of videos talking about medical waivers and getting into the military. And so I'm going to talk about that more as things are progressing and put it in one video for you all and we'll have it up. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon. That way you're notified every single time I post a new video. Make sure you're following me on my TikTok and my Instagram. On Instagram, I'm always posting stuff in my stories, hosting questions and all of that good stuff. And on TikTok, I'm always doing lives and answering questions in the moment, so make sure you're following me over there. Drop any questions, comments, or concerns and prayers for me in the comment section below. I love chatting with y'all, so let's talk more in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.